Hi, Crime Junkie Jury. I'm Lauren Conlin, and I am here to give you your daily Diddy Digest. We are on day 12, week 3 of the United States versus Sean Combs, the federal trial. And we kick things off this morning by finishing the cross-examination of Deontay Nash, who is Cassie's very close friend, was her former stylist and Diddy's former stylist. And he was cross-examined by Diddy's attorney, Xavier Donaldson. And right off the bat, I have to say that Deontay seemed to bring this lightness to the courtroom. I mean, it's been very dark. Things that we are hearing are really tough to listen to. And Deontay Nash seemed to have the judge even smiling at one point. I mean, that quickly kind of turned into like, okay, you guys need to get it together. Let's move along. And let me think. Oh, also, I was able to read Diddy's lips today when he turned around and saw his mother enter the courtroom. He turned around, he blew her a kiss, and he said, "How you doing, mommy?" I'm certain he said that. I read his lips. He also smiled and nodded when his 3 sons walked in. They walked in around 10:15. Christian, Justin, and Quincy. And yeah, he seemed to be in good spirits until we got to the testimony of Mia, his former assistant. And Mia is a pseudonym. She's victim 4, but I'll get to Mia later. But I wanted to just point out that I had never seen him, shake his head no at any testimony of anybody so far. And, there's a chance I might have missed it, of course, but I saw him shake his head yes at some former assistant testimony. Like he was even laughing with, I think it was David James, that assistant, when he was on the stand. David James had said something about being at a party and kind of dancing. He called it Diddy bopping, and Diddy's like, yeah. But back to Mia. Mia said a couple things. One of them, she said he sexually assaulted her, and he just was like, looked down like that. And I was like, oh, wow. I have never seen him kind of just shake his head and almost deny something. But we'll get to Mia. So let's go back to Deontay Nash really quick. He finished his cross-examination, I would say, within the hour, and he was questioning his testimony. And this is the testimony in particular of Cassie's eye gash incident, where Deontay said Diddy busted in her apartment. He jumped on Diddy's back, to stop him from hurting Cassie, as did the other friend, who, by the way, was Mia. And he testified, Deontay, during direct, that when Cassie was on the ground and her head was already kind of split open and bleeding, that Diddy continued to kick her and punch her and beat her. And Donaldson pointed out that Deontay had quite a few meetings with the government. I think he listed like 5 or 6. And he said, well, in all of your meetings with the government, you never said anything about Diddy kicking Cassie when she was already bleeding and down on the ground. Why is that? You never said it. And his answer was that he only answered what he was asked. And I thought about, okay, well, he told us a few times he didn't really want to be there. He was subpoenaed and he just kind of wanted to be in and out of all these meetings, so much so that he was even high for one of them. They also questioned something else that he talked about during his direct testimony, Cassie's 29th birthday. They were at a restaurant. Diddy set up a surprise party for her, and then they went to a karaoke bar after. And Deontay had said that Diddy, it seemed like they were fighting because Diddy wanted to do a freak off. And as many of us know, Cassie was forced to do a freak off on her 29th birthday. But Deontay said that he overheard Diddy say to Cassie, I do so much for you. Why can't you do this one thing for me? And then he also said at the other location they went to after the restaurant, the karaoke bar, he saw Diddy's like finger in Cassie's face in a corner. And then again, Donaldson brought up the fact, like, well, why is that you met with the government X many times, and these 2 instances were not mentioned? They seem to be pretty important to the night. Why would you not mention these? And he had the same answer. I only answer what I'm asked, type of thing. He also brought up text messages that Deontay sent to Diddy well after he stopped working for him. And again, after all the violence he endured, etc. There was an "I love you, brother" text. There was also a text exchange between them in 2019 where Diddy seems to be asking about Cassie and her well-being. And then there was another text from Deontay to Diddy in 2020 about a party. Like, how do I get invited to this party? Which Deontay said was actually for a friend and not really for him. And then I wanted to go back to something that I think that I've tied together through what Donaldson was trying to do with some of his cross. But essentially, when there was the hotel incident, when Cassie was up in this room and he said she wanted to like go over the balcony to escape Diddy, and the security guard kind of said, okay, I'll take you through the side, don't worry. And Deontay went downstairs and kind of told Diddy she wasn't there, and then his backpack got stolen. I think, because what I noticed today, I think the reason they kind of highlighted the part about the security guard kind of escorting Cassie out, they kind of touched on that as well today. I think they were trying to say, well, for a RICO charge, you have to have all of these employees really helping you with your criminal enterprise. And if these employees were helping Cassie, how could they, help with this criminal enterprise with Diddy? Maybe not, but that's what I took from him bringing this up about the security guards kind of helping her. And then Donaldson made some comments to him, you and Cassie are so close, but she kept secrets from you. You have text messages where she's talking about a secret trip and you didn't know about this trip. And also he would point out, well, you said Cassie didn't want to do freak offs, but you saw this escort leave their room in Vegas. And directly after Vegas, when you said she didn't want to do this freak off and she's so upset, she and Diddy go to Mexico on a vacation, and she's texting Deontay from Mexico saying what a great time she has and how nice it is, or a great time she's having and how nice the hotel is and everything. So pointed that out. And then going back to the secrets, he brought up Kid Cudi and how Cassie didn't really disclose that she was dating him, and then disclosed, oh, did you know she was dating an NBA player by the name of Brandon? They just said a name, Brandon. Could be a last name or first name. I don't know sports. I haven't dug into it yet. And then she said, oh, did you know she was in a relationship with Andre Branch, who's in the NFL? Nobody knew that. So that was kind of interesting. And then there was another point where Donaldson was questioning Deontay about Cassie's 2015 trip to South Africa. And this had been brought up early on in Cassie's direct testimony. But when she was in South Africa in 2015, she and Diddy were on again, off again, and she was talking to Michael B. Jordan. This came up during direct. So Donaldson is kind of setting the foundation to bring up Michael B. Jordan because he's talking about South Africa to Deontay. And all of a sudden, Deontay just goes, Mr. Donaldson, I know where you're going with this. I'm going to stop you. Yes, I hooked Cassie up with Michael B. Jordan. And, Mia kind of made it happen because she made sure that Michael B. Jordan had Cassie's number and vice versa. And everybody was like, what just happened? Because, you don't do that in court. And then he went on and he's like, look, Diddy was at this music festival with Gina. Gina is a woman that has come up very frequently that Diddy was kind of dating on and off, and Cassie did not like that. And apparently when Cassie was in South Africa, somebody thought Diddy and Gina, they thought Gina was Cassie. So they sent a picture or something like that to Cassie. Again, it was kind of hard to follow, but this is what I took from it. This photo was sent to Cassie because somebody thought that it was her, and Cassie was very embarrassed. Deontay said this would embarrass Cassie. She thought she would look bad because Diddy was kind of running around on her. So they were like, screw it. Let's live. And she started talking to Michael B. Jordan. But yeah, that was a moment. So that was the extent of Deontay's cross. And like I said, it did seem to bring some light into the dark. But then we went to Mia. And Mia is Sean Combs's former personal assistant and also was his former director of development at Revolt TV, which is different than Revolt Films, but clearly a subsidiary. Now, Mia also testified that she was best friends with Cassie and they are still best friends or very good friends. And she said at one point they were almost like sisters. She talked about how she was a personal assistant for Mike Myers before Diddy. And it was interesting because during jury selection, Mike Myers' name was brought up to the jury. And everybody was like, why? What is the meaning of this? What does Mike Myers have to do with Diddy? Well, I believe this is it. And she also said that working for Mike Myers, her hours were 10 to 6. She would occasionally get a call on the weekend to watch his dog or something. But working for Diddy was a shell shock, because her first day on the job, she said she got to the office after she got hired, and they sent her to New Jersey to his house to do some inventory or something. She gets back to the office in Manhattan. It's maybe 10 p.m. by the time she's about to leave. And they said, Mr. Combs wants you in the studio. So she goes to the studio maybe by 10:30. And then she testified that she didn't leave until 1 p.m. the very next day. And she said she thought it was, well, I'm new, I'm kind of on trial. Maybe that's what it is. But then she testified that she once was up for 5 days straight. And she used time released Adderall to help her get through this. But she finally, her body just broke down on her, and she had a nervous breakdown. Her vision got blurred. She lost her equilibrium. She just said she started crying uncontrollably. And then Diddy finally sent her home. And when the government asked her, and this is very much at the beginning of the questioning, they weren't getting into details, but they said, has he been physical with you? Has he been violent with you? And she said, yes, he's thrown me into pools. He's pushed me. He's thrown things at me, and he sexually assaulted me. That's when Diddy was like, he kind of shook his head like that. So getting into her direct testimony, she corroborated a lot of the violence that Cassie had experienced. I mean, she talked about 2 incidents in Turks and Caicos where Cassie came running into her room, screaming, saying, "You have to help me. He's going to kill me." They barricaded the door with furniture. Then they ran outside. And then she said she had a vision of them like paddling on a paddleboard when it was nighttime and not really safe. And Diddy was kind of screaming at them from the beach. She talked about how she witnessed, or actually she talked about an audio recording that she heard that Cassie took of Diddy slapping her around and Cassie crying and telling him to stop. She corroborated a story that Cassie told at the Cannes Film Festival, or something that happened at the Cannes Film Festival where Diddy got upset with her. And Cassie said he dug his hand in her beaded dress very hard and was kind of like clenching his teeth talking to her, which Mia testified as well, but said that he dug his fingernails into her arm. And then we were shown bruises on Cassie when she was on a red carpet that were covered up. And Mia corroborated this, and we also had Cassie testify about these same bruises as well. She also discussed a time that she was forced to do drugs with Sean Combs. It was ketamine. She said they were on a tour bus, and he put out 3 plates in front of her and some other people with white powder on all 3 plates. And it seemed to be some kind of game. Like, what will you get? Cocaine, Molly, or ketamine? And she didn't want to do it. And so she pretended to do it. And he got upset, and he kind of got in her face, and then he like pushed some white powder aside for her and forced her to do it. And she said she tried to, snot it out. It didn't work. She talked about there was an instance where he threw a bowl of spaghetti at her at like 3 a.m. in front of party guests at his house after they came back from a club, and he told her to go get IHOP, and she ran to go like change her tampon. She said they had been going at it like from 8 a.m. straight, and she was exhausted. She had her period, and he started screaming at her, and she couldn't say, "I'm just trying to change my tampon." And she said she had blood running down her leg, and she was just like, forget it. And she went to her room, and he threw this bowl of spaghetti at her. And she got a call from HR the next day that she was suspended without pay for being insubordinate. And this actually happened another time when she testified that Diddy told her to take Cassie to a hotel to keep her away from his house. He claimed he was going to hang out with his children. Who knows if he was going to do something else, but they decided to go to a Prince party, or a party Prince was throwing. They got this call, and Mia said they were at this hotel, and they were like kind of discussing, like teenagers, like, should we sneak out of the house or not? They decided to do it. They get to this party. She says it's so fun. Prince was performing like on a table to a small group of people. They were dancing on purple plexiglass. And then Mia says that she saw Diddy walk in with like a bucket hat, and he made eyes with her. And then she said she looked over and Cassie just booked it. And they ran outside, and she said that Diddy, caught up with Cassie and tackled her, but his security pulled her off. And then Mia said the next day she got suspended without pay for being insubordinate for this. And she also testified, just really quick, corroborating the cleanup of hotel rooms after Diddy would do these hotel stays. She'd clean up baby oil that was on the wall, on the table, on the floor. She said one time she had to drop something off at a hotel, and Cassie answered the door in a blue wig and kind of like peeked out. And she said that it was just so off-putting that she's like, "Are you okay?" Because Cassie's demeanor was so weird. And she said that Cassie's like, yeah, I'm fine, and shut the door. And then she also testified that when she was with Cassie driving, Cassie got a text message from Diddy, and it was talking about doing a freak off, and that Cassie had a physical reaction to it. She immediately got a very bad stomach ache and had awful stomach pains because she was so upset over this. Now, we also learned about a time that Diddy threw a computer at Mia because the Wi-Fi wasn't working on a movie set that he was at, and Mia couldn't fix it. And she testified that Swizz Beatz was there. I don't know if he was on the set or present when the computer was thrown, but she did say he was there. She also testified about a time that Diddy slammed her arm in a bathroom door at the Revolt TV office when he kind of stole her phone and she wanted it back. She didn't get it back for hours. And then she testified that he sexually assaulted her. And this happened when, at first, she testified that there was an instance where it was his 40th birthday. He gave her shots to take. And I don't know if the government was inferring there was something in these shots, but she kind of said, they said, "How did you feel after taking these shots?" And she said, "I felt weird. They hit me hard." And they said, "Was that normal for you?" And she said, "Well, I was in my 20s and I was in New York City, like, maybe meaning I drank a lot. So no, it wouldn't be normal for me to feel what I felt." But then she testified that Diddy kind of put her against a wall, kissed her, and put his hand up her dress. And then she said when she came to, she was fully clothed, but on a chair in the living room. So they left it at that. And then the other two times, one was a few months later at his LA home where she was sleeping in a bunk bed on the bottom bunk, and he came on top of her and forced himself inside her. And they asked, "How did it end?" And she said she doesn't know how it ended, but he wouldn't leave a job unfinished. And then she testified about another time that he forced himself inside her mouth when she was unpacking in his closet. And it was emotional. And I have to say, Mia was looking down for a lot of this testimony because she's using a pseudonym. I don't think she really wants her face to be shown, but she's very soft-spoken. She cried a lot, and she takes a lot of pauses. And it's heartbreaking, and it's also hard to hear her. So I am going to be, I did compare some notes with other people after, which was helpful, but I'll go into more detail tomorrow because she will be finishing her direct testimony and also her cross-examination. So if I left anything out, I will discuss it then. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and thanks for listening to the Daily Diddy Digest.